Welcome back to Director's Choice. Avatar: The Last Airbender was a time-changing animation series for the global entertainment industry. While the Avatar had the spotlight in the show, there were other characters who brought the story alive, from Katara to Sokka, who discovered the Avatar, to Zuko and Toph, who helped the Avatar master his bending skills. But one of the characters who is also a fan favorite is the coolest uncle and mentor anyone could ever want.
If I have to, I will spend every day of the rest of my life hunting the Avatar. I know it's my destiny to capture him.
You know, Prince Zuko, destiny is a funny thing. You never know how things are going to work out, but if you keep an open mind and an open heart, I promise you will find your own destiny someday.
Yeah, that's right. We are talking about the retired Fire Nation General, former Crown Prince of the Nation and Grand Lotus of the Order of the White Lotus, Uncle Iroh.
Uncle?
So, the Blue Spirit. I wonder who could be behind that mask.
What are you doing?
In this episode of Director's Choice, we take a look at the man behind the goatee of tea and wisdom. What were the major life events that modeled him into such a leader? How does he maintain his carefree attitude despite his origin? How much of his newfound lifestyle is an act of restitution?
And then what? You never think these things through. This is exactly what happened when you captured the Avatar at the North Pole. You had him, and then you had nowhere to go.
To find out what we think is the significance of his love for tea, make sure you stick around to the end of this video. Fire, air, water, earth, and let's get straight to it. Here is the breakdown of Uncle Iroh's psychology.
Wait,
But I don't feel any shame at all. I'm as proud as ever.
Prince Zuko. Pride is not the opposite of shame, but its source. True humility is the only antidote to shame.
Iroh was born into the royal family of the Fire Nation, and that became the basis of a lot of things in his life. He was the firstborn and crown prince to the throne, and with great power came great responsibility, which Iroh later realized he didn't want to be attached to his name. But before the introspection and clarity of mind that led to that admission, Iroh played the part of the perfect first son of the Fire Nation.
At stirring up trouble, we could lose all the good things that are happening for us.
Good things that are happening for you. Have you ever thought that I want more from life than a nice apartment and a job serving tea?
Growing up in constant competition with his younger brother, Ozai, Iroh developed tough skin and a commitment to succeeding. Iroh embodied the meaning of being in the Fire Nation with the resentment towards members of the other nations.
Sometimes life is like this dark tunnel. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if you just keep moving...
Iroh led the war against the Earth Kingdom's Ba Sing Se, and unlike the generals before him, he was successful. But the success came at a cost. By the time they returned home to the Fire Nation, Iroh had lost his only son, father, and claim to the throne.
What's the problem?
Nothing. Actually, there is a bit of a problem. My old joints are feeling sore and achy, and these shackles are too loose.
Too loose.
It was an understandably devastating time in Iroh's life, and it would become the arc for his character development. That level of grief, feeling of failure, and self-blame could only lead to a deep depression. Iroh lost the passion he had towards fulfilling his role as the Crown Prince and General.
Life happens wherever you are, whether you make it or not.
He took time off his duties in a search for inner peace, and that journey led Iroh to discover his new self. On his journey to finding inner peace, Iroh made some resolutions that ultimately led to his detachment from the royal family and, by extension, the Fire Nation.
Action and power are overrated. I think you are very wise to choose happiness and love.
He was stern in fulfillment of his responsibilities while at the Fire Nation, but Iroh had always been slightly different from the other members of his family and tribe. He had a more empathetic and cheerful nature than the rest of his people, which made Iroh loved and respected by his subordinates.
There's nothing wrong with a life of peace and prosperity. I suggest you think about what it is that you want from your life and why.
Iroh grew up with a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. He had to fill the shoes of the general and still play his part as the crown prince. With these roles, Iroh had to quickly learn how to be a leader, especially in a conflicting environment like the Fire Nation. His kind nature clashed with his leadership roles most of the time.
It's only been a week since your banishment. You should take some time to heal and rest.
What else would I expect to hear from the laziest man in the Fire Nation?
Nonetheless, his natural ambience drew people to Iroh, and he was able to command respect quite easily. He achieved a lot during his time as the general, including the remarkable but unfortunate event of breaching Ba Sing Se.
Who knew floating on a piece of driftwood for 3 weeks with no food or water, and sea vultures waiting to pluck out your liver could make one so tense?
Iroh was a kind leader, but he was fearsome when faced with his enemies. His strategies for battle were remarkable, and even when he was still living by the principles of the Fire Nation, he was committed to every mission. As a leader, Iroh showed great signs of trustworthiness. He was also great when he needed to create plans for the Avatar team.
Important to draw wisdom from many different places. If we take it from only one place, it becomes rigid and stale. Understanding others, the other elements, and the other nations will help you become whole.
He had experienced a lot in life, and it made him a very wise man. He infused his wisdom through proverbs and quotes that seemed very carefree, but were also impactful. Iroh knew that life wasn't all good or all bad, and he made sure to explain it to whoever needed that knowledge.
What are you talking about? Just give me your money, old man!
With a poor stance, you are unbalanced and you can be easily knocked over.
For the most part, his wisdom and leadership were exhibited in his relationship and guardianship with Zuko. Iroh had to help Zuko find the path to being himself without all of the experiences that Iroh himself had lived through.
I'm begging you, Prince Zuko. It's time for you to look inward and begin asking yourself the big questions. Who are you? And what do you want?
The fact that Zuko was stubborn and set in his own ways made it very difficult for Iroh to get across to him. Iroh played a huge role in Zuko's character development, and he was also a huge part of the Avatar's successful mission. Iroh's wisdom and leadership are great qualities, but his kindness balances it out, making him a very heartwarming person. Iroh's personality is one of the most admirable things about him. Iroh lives a very calm, paced, and laughter-filled life. He enjoys his passions for tea, pai sho, music, and meditation, with a complete air of serenity.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Sharing tea with a fascinating stranger is one of life's true delights.
No, thank you for what you said. It helped me.
Iroh likes to be calm and at one with his surroundings, and you can almost always find him relaxing somewhere. Before joining the noble cause of the Avatar and his friends, Iroh treated his and Zuko's search for the Avatar like a mini holiday. Iroh's carefree attitude is out of place among his family members and fellow firebenders.
Darkest times, hope is something you give yourself. That is the meaning of inner strength.
The Fire Nation is known for being stoic, arrogant, and aggressive, and while Iroh may have exhibited these characteristics at some point, he was mostly an outlier to the norm. Iroh enjoys mellow activities, and though he is a prolific fighter in battle, he chooses to stay off the front lines most often than not. Iroh's free spirit is what eventually convinces Zuko to adopt better morals and live life on his path, not whatever was predetermined by his belonging to the royal family. Although Iroh's free spirit and funny personality may sometimes be mistaken for laziness and idiocy, the former general is very agile and witty. Iroh comes up with the sneakiest plans to get the job done, and he always makes sure to leave time for tea. Iroh learned early enough that life was worth living when you choose to live for your passions. While he couldn't completely break Zuko's stoicism, he was able to convince his nephew that the hard-faced life wasn't the best option.
Goodbye, everyone. Today, destiny is our friend. I know it.
Iroh lived a full life until his ascension into the world of the spirits. Although he was the influencing factor in most of his interpersonal relationships, Iroh's psychology can still be associated with these people. The most impacting relationships Iroh had were with his father and his son. Iroh and his son Lu Ten were really close, and Lu Ten's death pulled Iroh into the darkest depths of his mind.
Ever since I lost my son, I think of you as my own.
I'm angry at myself!
While there weren't a lot of details about his relationship with his father, it was clear that Iroh and Azulon loved each other. Losing these two people so close together was overwhelming for Iroh, and it led to the events that created his character arc.
If only I could have helped you. Leaves from the vine, falling so slow, like fragile, tiny shells.
With Fire Lord Ozai, his immediate younger brother, Iroh had a very competitive childhood. They constantly tried to prove who was better than the other. This competition, however unhealthy, prepared Iroh for a life of toughness as the general. He constantly had to prove himself as a better leader, warrior, and prince than his brother. When Iroh fell into despair and began to rethink his life journey, he was unmoved by the fact that Ozai had become the Fire Lord.
She knew I wanted the throne, and she proposed a plan in which I would become Fire Lord, and your life would be spared.
Iroh knew that his brother wanted the throne, and he was more than happy to pass it up. In a twist of events, Iroh ended up becoming the guardian and mentor to Zuko, Ozai's son and Iroh's nephew.
Well, ever since I lost my son,
Uncle, you don't have to say it.
I think of you as my own.
I know, Uncle. We'll meet again.
Recognizing the traits similar to his father, Iroh took Zuko under his mentorship, and they left the Fire Nation together when Zuko was banished. Iroh knew that the path towards becoming the Fire Lord, which Zuko was treading as the Crown Prince, was a dangerous way.
Wait! Don't leave without me.
Uncle, you've changed your mind.
Family sticks together, right?
Iroh applied his wisdom and leadership skills, with highlights of his free spirit, to convince Zuko to choose to be a good person. And in the end, it worked out well. Iroh also served as a beacon of knowledge to Aang, Toph, and the rest of the team at specific moments.
So, Toph thinks you give pretty good advice. And great tea.
The key to both is proper aging. What's on your mind?
While a lot of his words were said to be eccentric behavior, it is evident that Iroh was a man who lived from his experiences, but didn't forget to enjoy the present. Iroh never felt 100% comfortable at the Fire Nation, and seeking his own path made that clearer than ever. Iroh lives a simple life, and he refuses to be bothered by anything beyond his control, although with his power and skills, there isn't much that he can't subdue.
So, honor. When I'm through with you kids, the window won't be the only thing that's broken. But not this time. Run!
With the wisdom, experience, and strength to fight against enemies, Iroh still chose to live a life without violence. His love for tea is evidence of an internal calmness that is unparalleled. Iroh enjoys the balance between the elements and real life, and that's the best way to live. No matter how hectic life seems at the moment, always remember to take breaths and enjoy your passions. Iroh knows the balance, and one can learn a whole lot from his lifestyle. That's all for today. Thank you for joining us on the breakdown of Uncle Iroh's psychology. Take a look at this other recent clip by Director's Choice, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of our latest videos.